Hi, Gravel by California here to go over with you some of my techniques that I use when I plan and plot out gravel rides. There is no foolproof way of doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to make this video. No matter how well prepared you are, how many great resources, there are always steps you should take before heading out on one of these uncharted rides. Before I go on, let me just quickly say this is part of my weekly Patreon videos. The first one of the month I share with everyone. The others are for subscribers, which is only $3 a month, so please help me make these videos. When I start planning out a ride, obviously the two biggest things are to figure out where you want to go and how far. For me, the first tool I turn to is Strava. I enjoy looking at the Explore page, which gives where I focus on the segments. Then I cross-reference it with the heat maps. I think that's a pretty reliable tool to know if people have gone there before. The problem you find in this is trying to balance whether these are roads that you can take your gravel bike on. It's a lot easier when you're doing road riding because you could just cross-reference with Google Maps that these are streets. But when you are trying to find some of these off-road possibilities, that's where it gets a little bit dicey to try and figure out whether or not these are gravel bike rideable, whether they're more for mountain bike or heck, even snow bike. For me, there's a few ways that I definitely use the Strava tool to help me get around that. One is as much as you can to break down these segments individually, if there's any sections that are over 20%. The other thing that I sometimes track is that I will look at other people that have ridden the segment, and sometimes when you look at their ride, I try and check and see what type of bike they've used, if they allow that type of information. When I start to get a general idea about it, then I start using the route mapper. In ways it's very functional, but sometimes you'll find when you are trying to map things out, there are gaps, like it won't connect roads all the time. That's why it's always good to also cross-reference it with something like Map My Ride with GPS. The other couple tools that once I have a basic idea of what to go down with, All Trails is a good one because it gives a lot of mapping routes across the country. But the tool that I've been using more recently is Trail Forks. It not only lists out a bunch of trails, but it also gives you the degree of difficulty, which is super helpful. In certain parts of the country, these maps are very extensive. In other parts, they're not really covered. That is one of the problems when you're trying to find like a centralized site, because no one yet quite has a monopoly on a very wide-reaching database of routes. Once you've mapped out your route on Strava, the detective work isn't done. There's still many pitfalls along the way you have to look out for. One, for example, is closures. There's also where it comes across fires, maintenance work. For me, once I've plotted out these rides, I try and check out the segments on Strava to see if they've been recently ridden. If no one's been on there for a while, it tells me something is up. The other thing is to also think about the conditions in the area. For example, in the San Gabriel Mountains, you know that the snow level can go 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet in certain parts. And you know that there'll be snow, muddy conditions during certain times of the year. It's always very important to try and consider around that, because especially in Southern California, there are optimal times for different types of trails on different types of terrain. The other thing that sometimes you get missed out on are dead ends. We mapped out Upper Monroe Truck Trail, which looked like a nice clean way to get over GMR into the East Fork. Turned out we ran into a prison camp. You definitely want to make sure if there's something wrong with your map not connecting to see if there's a disconnect. The other thing to check once you've mapped out your route is the elevation profile. Sometimes the tools do not give accurate readings. When I did the Santa Clara Truck Trail in late 2018, it looked like once I reached Mount Gleason, it was a nice steady downhill till I hit Bear Divide. In reality, it was a lot of ups and downs, which definitely extended the ride. Look out for straight lines if you're going on mountainous areas, and always use another resource to verify what the elevation profile is going to be. The other thing is, go ahead and check out all these other sites too. Dirty Free Hub. Like I said, All Trails has a lot of good resources. But once you've plotted out that ride, you definitely need to do your homework afterwards to see if anything new has come up. I got caught on the Santa Clara Truck Trail again because a big area got washed out and they were doing construction, not letting me through. So if you're going through a state, federal, local park, check their websites as well to see if there are any closures. Sometimes Twitter is a better resource for that. Try and be a mensch. If you go ahead and have done one of these rides, post the route, share it, try and put it up on one of these sites, and let others get to enjoy it too. I hope some of these techniques are helpful and you won't get lost and you'll see another one of these videos. Thanks very much.